Excellent.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Krista Hershala, the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Delegate Solutions, and we are a premium virtual assistant service helping entrepreneurs and their teams find freedom through delegation. I am super excited to be chatting with our friend Elyse Stoner today. Elyse is the founder and chief strategist of Fresh Perspective Consulting. Elyse is a certified digital event strategist, and she's going to be sharing her expertise with us today about how businesses can create a clear and strategic approach to executing virtual events, and not only executing them, but really ensuring that they are a success. So welcome, Elyse.
Thanks, Krista. I'm so excited to be here. This is so fun.
It is fun. It is fun. I'm glad to have you. So let's jump in, and I'm just going to start us sort of foundationally with a question about, how do we define a virtual event? Because it doesn't have to be a big summit or conference to be considered an event, right?
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Like what we're doing right now and the people that are joining us on Facebook, this is an event. It's a designated time and place to have a conversation. And so many people get caught up in well, I'm not really having an event. You are. Surprise.
Right.
When the pandemic hit, so I had a lot of people ask me like, oh my God, what's going to happen to your business? Like people aren't going to be doing events anymore. And I said, well, really, actually they are. The platform changes, but all the strategy and planning and tools that you're going to put into place to make it a strong marketing opportunity doesn't change at all.
Absolutely. No, I agree with that, and I think it's a mindset shift that people are figuring it out, right? But this is your expertise, so in this current environment, which is very different than what a lot of organizations were used to, right? It's a remote environment. Are events really still a viable option for most companies?
They are. They are. Again, it's a mindset shift. But I think if you're strategic and understanding what it is that you're trying to accomplish, the sky's really the limit on how you do it, how you produce it, and really using an event, as I like to say, an event is a moment, right? And it's a moment that you're creating on a buyer's journey. So they are very relevant because people are still buying, people are still journeying. And it's just it's a tool to have the conversation and to answer people's questions. And that's, I get on my soapbox a little bit sometimes when it comes to those sorts of things, but it's really, you need to know what you're trying to accomplish in order to figure out, you use the word success, right? Whether the event was a success or not. And that is not always, I have X amount of people and they buy Y amount of product. An event can be anything. Like I said, it could be education. It could be a thank you event. It could be a brand building event. Those have very different goals. But there's certainly no reason that just because you and I aren't in the same room that we can't do that and we can't accomplish our goals.
Absolutely. I know we've talked about this, and I've been seeing so many articles about this, about the importance of obviously the event itself and having a successful, engaging event. Um, but more importantly, maybe, is that follow-up piece after the event. And I just wondered if you could speak to that a bit, because I think that's where sometimes events fall flat, is with the follow-up and really, as you said, that the ROM, the ROM, the return on the moment.
Right. Absolutely. Back in the old days of 2019, I used
They
to
are the old
say,
days now.
exactly. I used to say, an event doesn't end when you put the tables and chairs away.
Yeah.
The moment in that particular space may end, but your strategy is going to bring you through. I see the ROM like it's very circular, right? So the moment is part of that circle, and then there's the follow up. And you need to have a plan and a strategy because now you've already engaged people. So what? Like, is there a call to action? Is there some sort of, do you need people to call and follow up and answer questions? Again, it's that buyer's journey, like where you need to give people the roadmap of where they're going to go next.
Yeah.
And so many people, we'll use our new version, right? I click end on my Zoom and my event is over. But how many people actually send a follow-up note, ask follow-up questions? Hey, we talked about this book in our conversation. Here's a
Yeah.
link to that. Like there's some really good methods that you can use, and that's what I work with my clients on. Of saying, how do we keep this thing alive and push it down the field in the
Yeah.
sports term.
Well, yeah, and I think to your point, there's so many almost relationships that start even in one event. You're starting sort of those trusted relationships, and you want to continue that on. You don't want that just to fall flat. So that follow up is critical. That's great.
Yeah.
So I guess, how can businesses determine if it's even worthwhile to do an event? Because there's a fair amount of effort that goes into
Mhm.
these things, as you know only too well. So how do they determine that?
Well, again, I think it's about you have to set your goals first. Like
Yeah.
understand understand your why. Why are you even thinking about doing an event? Like what are you trying to accomplish? And then once you figure that out, then figure out who your target audience, it's marketing, right? Like
Yeah.
who's your avatar? Who are you marketing to? Um, and that comes along in that process. And at some point, like a lot of things in life, right, we take a leap of faith. We do our event, we have all of our goals set, and then we do our follow-up, not only the external follow-up, but we do our internal follow-up. What worked, what didn't work, what would we like to change? Um, and having those conversations with what I like to say is the entire event stakeholder group, because there's the planner, there's the attendee, there's potentially sponsors, there's potentially speakers, like really kind of getting a full picture of from everybody. And whether that is, again, like you said, a huge conference, or it's a client engagement wine tasting. Have the conversation afterwards. What did you like? What didn't you like? Um, and that's how you can determine the value and success. um, I'm a little biased. I think that events are a great tool.
Yeah.
Um, so, to sort of answer that beginning question, how do you decide? Well, the answer is always yes. And then it's what do you decide to do with it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses and companies have determined that, even if they haven't done a virtual event before, now's a really good time to get yourself out there and give it a go. Give it a try. Progress, not perfection. It doesn't have to be perfect every time, but give it a try, because right now this is what we got, and it can be extremely effective and
Yeah.
fun too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of folks, like I said, are doing events and they don't really think that they're doing events. Like I have some colleagues and people in my network who are coaches, right? And we're going to do an Eventbrite coaching situation and talk about our challenges. Guess what? That's an event. So the conversation of like, well, who are you inviting? Do you have an understanding of what you're going to do once you're done? And I keep reiterating the point, but it's just like it doesn't have to, those aren't things that you do only if you have 500 people coming to a day-long virtual conference.
Yeah.
It applies to everybody, and it's a great tool to then answer the previous question of like, did this work? Do we want to do it again? How can we do it differently to maybe help us reach our goals?
Absolutely. I know we only have a couple more minutes. These chats go so fast, Elyse?
That's
So I'm
okay.
gonna skip up to my final question for you, which is, what is really the difference between event planning and event strategy? Because I'm not totally clear on that. So maybe some of our audience is not clear on that either. And do I need both of those things? So it's a
Right.
two-part question.
So I'll answer the second part first. And the answer is you do, but you don't necessarily need two different people to do that. Event planning usually is more logistical. and there isn't as much of the strategy and um, the marketing expertise that comes on that side. Where event strategy could also stand alone, right? It's a marketing and understanding target audience and understanding your goals, and somebody else can be the online host for your event, can do the research for the platforms, can set up the technology, but they are two different skill sets that really need to come to the table to be able to really analyze if it's the right opportunity for you and your marketing program. Quick story: in my previous life, I did some social event planning and bar mitzvahs and weddings, and we did a quinceanera, and we did a celebration of life. And my business partner, that was her jam, like the ideas and the design and the decor. And it was sort of this ongoing joke of like, oh, it'd be a nautical theme. And I'm like, oh, we could do such and such. And she'd kind of look at me and go like, back in your corner.
Stay in your
Which
lane.
exactly, which is what kind of led me to this strategy thinking. So they were amazing events and they were beautiful parties. And like, did they meet their goals? Yeah, like people got married and bar mitzvah boys were celebrated, and if that was the goal. But there wasn't a lot of event strategy in that
Right,
space.
right.
So yes, you can have one without the other, but if you have to have sort of the bigger picture on what you're really trying to accomplish to then determine which one or both really work for you.
Yeah, no, it sounds like both is, in most cases, maybe the way to go.
Yeah,
So this has been so helpful and interesting, and I know that this information that you've shared is going to help a lot of people and companies out there. This has just been a quick snippet, obviously. So a couple things is, one is, do you want to share anything that you're currently working on, that, just to share with our audience? And then I'd love to know where people can go if they want to continue this conversation with you, which I'm sure they will.
sure. So what am I currently working on? I've relocated my business during the pandemic, because doesn't everybody do that?
Why not?
Uh,
Why not
right.
add to the crazy? Yeah.
Right. So I am reestablishing in the Philadelphia market, but again, because everything's virtual, no matter where you're watching, we can talk. So it's really learning about digital event. Like I said, I just recently, and you mentioned, I recently have been certified as a digital event strategist, and what that means, not only to the content, but our delivery and um, the really cool things you can do with this sort of stuff afterwards to give it some length and shelf life. So I'm doing that, and people can reach me. My website is thefreshperspective.net, and I talk more there about this ROM model and goal setting, um, and obviously you can learn a little bit about me and how, like, why it's a fresh perspective versus Elise's event strategy business. And I would love to carry on the conversation with people who want to learn more about ROM, or trying to figure out whether they should do an event, or figuring out who their target audience is. We've got a link that's dedicated just to our viewers for this, that you're going to put, I think, in the comments.
I absolutely am. Yep.
So click on that. Let's grab 20 minutes and we can talk. We'll set up our own event, whether Zoom or on the phone, and share a little bit more, and I can give some ideas of how I can help.
Sounds great. Yep. And I will put those links in the comments of this post. Everyone, I think we've learned is event or not to event, we should all be doing events. So reach out to Elyse with her expertise, and reach out to her and certainly ask her any questions and tap into that expertise. So thank you, Elyse, for joining us. This has been wonderful, and have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
Yes, thank you.